Good day and welcome to ASB Live. My name is Julia Richards and I'll be your host for this episode of the ASB podcast. Now I have two members with me. I'll let them introduce themselves and then we'll move forward with the program.
Okay, good afternoon to our viewing and listening audience. I am Leanna Alexander, faculty here at the University of the Southern Caribbean. And my area is inclusive and special education. I live on the island of Tobago, but today I'm honored to be here to share some information on Down syndrome and also to talk a little bit about World Down Syndrome Day, which is today, March the 21st. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Adriel Hoyte. I am a student here at USC. I'm a part of the Education and Humanities Department, and I'm currently studying for a bachelor's in primary education. I'm just glad to be here with the others to, continue to learn about Down syndrome awareness, as I am aware that as someone who's training to be a teacher is something that I can definitely come in contact with in the classroom. So I'm here to learn along with everyone else.
Of course, of course. Now you said you're here to learn, but I do want to ask before we begin, why do you think that knowing about these things is important? If you're in the department, why do you think this is important for your field to know about these things?
Yeah, so like I just mentioned, in the classroom we come in contact with children from various backgrounds with various differences and disabilities, etc. Even though there are schools that are sometimes prescribed for students with different disabilities, sometimes parents might not have, the funds and so on to take their children to those schools. I mean, they may not even know that children have a particular disability or some type of problem. So it's definitely important as an educator to be able to know about Down syndrome and those other things, to be able to see it in the classroom and be able to then provide for those students, because they will need specific, they will need to be catered for specifically because they have their own challenges, but at the same time being able to include them in the classroom so that they feel a part of the community and so on. So that's why I definitely think it's important to know about it, Down syndrome.
Okay, I like that accessibility, right? Now, Miss Leanna, right? Lay it on me. So, talking about World Down Syndrome Day, so let's start with an easy one. What really is Down syndrome?
Okay, so Down syndrome it falls under the category of intellectual disability. So it's an intellectual disability, and it's also chromosomal. So it's a chromosomal, I would say, condition. Sometimes you would see disorder, but I don't like to use the word disorder when we are speaking about persons. So it's a chromosomal condition characterized by an extra copy of the 21st chromosome. All right, so typically we know that persons are born with 23 pairs or 46 chromosomes. For persons with Down syndrome, there's an extra copy on the 21st chromosome. Down syndrome is also known as trisomy 21, which is the medical name, because trisomy meaning 3, 21 meaning the 21st chromosome. And the pairs, so we have the pairs, we know that a pair is 2. So you have the first, second, third, all the way down to the 20th. When you get to the 21st, that pair oftentimes do not separate. Right? So we have one from mommy, one from daddy. One from mommy, one from daddy. And we have, male, female. One from mommy, one from daddy, or one from sperm, one from egg. So when the two on the 21st chromosome, when those two come, mommy, daddy, egg, or sperm, and it's not separated, what happens naturally, another one would come because you're supposed to have 2. So when that other one comes, then you have 3 copies, and then we go on. So that a person with Down syndrome, when the pregnancy goes to full term, a baby is born with Down syndrome. So every cell of that baby or the person with that, 21st copy, the 3 copies you have an extra chromosome in your cells. So you have 47. So it's just an extra chromosome.
Can I ask a question? Does that have an impact on the physical features? Because I know people with Down syndrome, they have like different physical features that you can see when you look at them. Sometimes you can tell from their physical features. So does that have an impact? The extra chromosome, does that have an impact on that?
Okay, so that's an excellent question. So, again, yes, Down syndrome, it's one of the disabilities where you can look at the individual and physically see we call it characteristics.
Yeah.
So yes, you would have the eyes would be a bit slanted, you would have maybe the extra folds by the eyes, the nasal area would be a bit flat. So the face is generally, a bit more flat than normal. Stature would be short, limbs and, fingers would be a bit short. For a child with Down syndrome, or an individual, not all, but most, you would have, we have these lines in our hand palms, and we always, look for the M for money and stuff like that. The person with Down syndrome, there's one single line. One line here is like a palmar line. So where you fold that hand, you have that single line. All students do not have it, or all children do not have it, but the majority would have it. In addition, between that, we would say the big toe and the other toes, there's a space. So persons with Down syndrome, they do not like to keep on their shoes. They're very flexy in terms of the joints, very flexy. And there are so many other areas that maybe we could talk about it a bit later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so what other aspects is like important?
I would say, so in keeping with what you were talking about with inclusion, having persons with disabilities included in our classrooms, in our churches, in society, in our schools. For a person with intellectual disability or Down syndrome, as we are focusing on today, they can be included.
Yes.
All right, they can be included with support, right? Oftentimes the support is not as much as if a child is maybe deaf, where you have to have, that sign language and stuff like that. For the child with Down syndrome, you would have developmental delays. You would also have some of the behaviors, infantile behavior would continue way past maybe the early childhood years. You would also have, so they are able to do what the average child would do, but they do it at a slower pace.
Okay.
So the milestones and the development, it happens, but at their pace. Yeah?
Okay.
Okay. So, with regards to that, right? So, when you say that they develop at a slower pace, eventually, right? Would you say that they would reach the level of intellectual capacity as like a normal human adult?
It varies, because oftentimes you would hear professionals saying mild or moderate or severe. Working with students for a number of years, at least more than 15 years, yes, you may say, okay, this student is mild, this student is moderate, this student is severe, but when it comes to the 21st chromosome, Down syndrome is Down syndrome. What makes the difference is the support, the early intervention, the opportunities given at the early childhood years to have that child be included in society.
Do normal things.
Right? So if it is that, okay, my baby have Down syndrome, and you're not allowing them to tie their laces, feed themselves, right? So when we enable them to not reach their fullest potential, I think that is one of the issues. So once parents are informed, and so once they are sensitized and awareness, so like what we are doing here, persons would be informed and say, hey, so that can happen. So you give them the opportunity. They go to preschool because they can go. They go to primary school because it's okay for them to go. It's just that the support would be necessary to have them included.
Okay.
Okay, so how do we support, as if I'm like a student and in a primary or secondary school, and one of my classmates, they have, their Down syndrome, what can I do to assist them?
All right, so that's an excellent question. So let me just put a plug in here to say that statistics would have shown that 1 in every 700 babies are born with Down syndrome, but it's more like 1 in every 600 now, because before we would have been told that, you know, older mummies or older parents have children with Down syndrome, but now it's not like that. You have persons in their 20s and their 30s and their teens having babies born with Down syndrome. So it's much more prevalent, and obviously it's genetic, right? It's because once we are talking chromosomes, we are talking genetics, right? So sometimes you would not be able to know if your baby will have Down syndrome. Right? So it's not something that you get to choose, or you say, okay, I think my great-grandfather had that characteristics. Now we are seeing babies are being born with Down syndrome, and there's no evidence as to, you know, what's happening. Yeah, you asked a question. I don't think I answered your question.
Right. I asked in terms of, you're talking about support, so I asked
support.
Well, yeah, what type of support? How would I be able to support?
All right. So firstly, I would say support would have to be on all levels. So we could look at systematic support. So what support have in our system? So if it is we are talking education, what support do we have? Student support services, yes. But to what level? You would need a teacher's aide. You must have your teachers, as my Ms. Hoyte, right?
Yes, please.
Ms. Hoyte was saying, she's in the field, she's in the class, so it means that you would have to do some training or professional development on inclusion and accommodations.
Yes.
Right? Support also would be speech therapy, because as we would have mentioned, we have delays. So the speech and the language development would not be there. So chronologically, the child or a person with Down syndrome, let me say a child, at 3 years old or 4 or 5, you are now having milestones like maybe an 8-month-old, right? So your chronological age would be maybe 8, but cognitively or developmentally you are at maybe 36 months or 24 months. So the support evidently would have to be a lot in terms of at education level, even at home. Parents must be mindful. So they have to know, you know, sometimes parents are in denial. So they have to be at that place to say, hey, my child can be able to do X, Y, and Z, but not at this time. So I need to, you know, take him from where he is and move on. And then we have the paraprofessionals. These would be our speech therapists, occupational therapy, where you have, you know, tying the laces, strengthening your pincer, all these little things, teaching them to eat and stuff like that. Maladaptive behaviors, because oftentimes they come to school at 6 and they're under the table, they're turning over their bowls to eat, because obviously mommy or daddy fed them, but now that they are in an environment where they have to have social skills, they have to be able to, you know, mingle with each other. They are not sure how that is. So all the support. So your friend in school having Down syndrome, you can just be a friend to that friend, right? Show them stuff, play with them, because they mimic. Kind. Yeah, they mimic and look at what you are doing, and they can do it as well.
Okay. Was there any other aspects that we can talk about here?
I'm thinking now with the research that we have and technology. So technology would have done a lot in terms of what can now happen. Okay. So we have assistive technology. So there's a lot more that can be done in the classroom. There's a lot more that can be done in the workplace. There's a lot more that can be done in our homes to assist persons with Down syndrome and other disabilities. So for a child with Down syndrome, we can have, it just went from my head. For a child with Down syndrome, yes, we can have, you have the therapies, you have the early intervention. You also have a lot of information out there that tells us that a person with Down syndrome can live, life expectancy is now maybe 55, 60, right? They can be included in the school. They can also have jobs, because with the opportunities and all the information that is out, they are given the opportunities. So they are not at home hidden away.
Yeah.
They are now out, being included and having that opportunity to be a part of society.
Okay. And I think it's very important then for us to continue bringing awareness to just how much they can be included, because, you know, as you just said about them being able to have jobs and be included, are employers willing to give them that opportunity? You know, they might just see them and be like, oh, you won't be able to do this job. But if they are well informed about, you know, them being able to be included and do certain things, they can find probably something for them to do in society.
Yeah,
and the
I
different
think that's one thing a
workplace.
lot of people I feel like, because they lack the, what's the word, familiarity with them, and you know, it's just what you hear online and stuff like
Exactly.
that. I remember reading a story. There was a Down syndrome employee at a fast food restaurant. He worked there for 20 years, and then a new manager came in, saw that he was Down syndrome, and was like, "Oh, you're an inefficient worker," and he fired him. Right? No, there was a big thing about that. And it's just kind of sad, you know,
Yeah.
because he was there, he was working, you know,
Exactly.
he was not, he was probably the same way as everybody else, but the manager just saw that person. He was like, no, right? And I feel like that familiarity is what we need.
So can I
Yeah,
put a plug in there? So oftentimes we look at persons and we look at their disability and not their abilities. Right?
I
So
agree.
focusing on that disability, you know, oftentimes persons with disability, there's a little slogan that says, do not diss my ability. So we take off the diss and we focus on their abilities, because we all have stuff that we are not able to do.
Correct.
Yeah? So likewise, a person with Down syndrome, there are things that they can do. And for persons who have these individuals on staff, they are one of the most committed, because they're always early, always on time. They do their work. They don't have time for gossip. They don't have time for
And most of the
phones.
time they're so friendly and, you know, energetic
Right.
about what they do.
So the opportunities are there, but more so legislation in terms of what can be done. We do not have the laws. We do not have laws that mandates inclusion, at least here in Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean.
Yeah.
Right? So America, yes, we have the IDEA laws, the No Child Left Behind Act, and we have the American with Differences Act, right?
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that, and we also have the No Child Left Behind Act and the rights of the child and all these things, that each areas would have articles that support, you know, equal and equitable education and stuff for persons with disabilities. However, these laws are American laws. They are not enforced here, but because of we would have signed on to frameworks like the Salamanca Statement and Convention that actually would have forced us to recognize, right? And in doing that, we sign on to things and we are not sure as to what we got ourselves into. However, that is why we now have to try to ensure that we have inclusion in our schools, and that is why it's so big, and it's a, you know, that push for inclusion. But without legislation,
Yeah.
there's only so much that you can do.
I understand what
Yeah?
you mean. Yeah, because it's not just about like equality. What you says about it's about equity. You know, it's not about
Equity.
making sure that everybody has the right, has the same.
Same thing.
It's making sure the people that are unable have the support so that they can thrive as much as the other people who don't.
Exactly. That support, that fairness, that justice. So everybody's given a chair, but maybe the person who with Down syndrome may need a different chair, something a little higher, a little softer, you know, something different. So that is where the equity comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was there's a story. I'm trying to remember it. Right. So I'm in the USC marching band, right? And so we have to play for a bunch of different causes. And one of them, I believe you should know about it, the Down syndrome march that goes around the Queens Park Savannah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we had to play for that. And,
Is it the body walk?
yes, the body walk,
right?
yes.
So body walk, yeah.
Forgot the name. So yeah, so we usually play for that every year. And the last time we had to do for it, there was a Down syndrome fella there. I met him, and it was like he just came up to us and he was just very excited, and it was just a really novel experience, like just seeing them like come, cause we all have our instruments and stuff, and ready to play music, and I was like, wow, these guys are just like they're always just so cool and friendly and stuff like that.
Yes.
I just always have the delight to be around.
So thanks for sharing your story. So I just want to put another plug in here. So one of the things that we can do is that when we are speaking about persons with Down syndrome or any other disability, we use the person first language. So like saying you say a Down syndrome fella, we say the child or the boy with Down
yes.
syndrome.
Yeah,
Okay.
my
But
bad.
yeah, no, it's okay. It's good so that we could discuss
We're
it so
learning,
persons would
yes.
know. So person first. So that child with Down syndrome, it actually put the person first and not the disability first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then, I should say a fellow with Down syndrome because
Yes.
I was not certain of his
Yeah,
age.
that's okay. That's okay. But I'm just saying that to say that oftentimes that's another way we can support by highlighting the individual as opposed to the disability.
So they're more than their disability. Yeah.
Yes.
I know what you mean.
And with the socks, because I think you raised a very, very important point in terms of awareness and sensitization. So you were asking, how could the employer would have fired the worker because obviously he was not aware. And one of the things with awareness is that we first need to be aware of a situation before we can be sensitized. So once you now have empathy or maybe compassion, or you say, okay, you have that drive to do more for persons with Down syndrome. So both goes hand in hand, but obviously it's two different elements. So when we are sensitized, when we are aware, that is why we would rock our socks. Yeah, so World Down Syndrome Day, in 2011, the United Nations would have started the Rock Your Socks campaign, and it brings awareness and sensitization. Now we have that little display that we're gonna highlight in the back, where we have the chromosomes, the pairs, and when you get to the 21st pair that was not separated properly, then we have another one coming. Now under the microscope, our chromosomes look like socks with bands. Okay. So us wearing the socks and rocking the socks today, March the 21st, would signify the 21st day for the 21st chromosome and the 3rd month for the triple copy. Okay. That is why we rock our socks on March the 21st. So it's not just a gimmick or, because I'm walking through Port of Spain and persons are making comment like, oh, look, they have on the socks and it's just for today. But for me, this is much more. For you with your socks is much more. For you with your socks is much more. It means that we are now cognizant of what Down syndrome is. We want to support these persons. And the thing is, it's not just for today. Right? We are going to do more stuff. So apart from rocking the socks, the organization that I represent, the Down Syndrome Family Network, there's presence in Trinidad and also in Tobago. So I'm the representative for Tobago. And we do workshops. So you was asking, how can we support? Our workshops are for parents. Professionals come in and they offer their services free, right? To sensitize parents and educate them. Professionals come in. So what I do, I train teachers like yourself. I do workshops on strategies as to how you can teach a child with Down syndrome. We have persons who do speech therapy. We have persons who do occupational therapy. And we have our conference, which was on today at the Hyatt. And we have a conference, the Tobago leg, that is going to be on Thursday. And you all could join the link because it's virtual.
Okay.
And
we'll have
yes,
that. Yeah.
at these conferences, some of our main speakers are individuals with Down syndrome. So it's really nice to see with the early intervention and the support what can be done, right? So it's an eye-opener for us here to see more, right?
Okay, so what's the end goal? What
Um,
what does
How do
that
we-
look
I
like?
don't think we
Yeah.
have an end. I think we have continuous and ongoing.
Yeah. So how do we go forward?
Right. So moving forward, persons are sensitized. Persons are aware, and when we become aware, we can now include persons with Down syndrome. So, persons with Down syndrome and other disabilities, they are often marginalized. Like your little friend losing his job, they are marginalized. So persons do not look at them as okay, an individual with skills and competencies. They look at the disability. But as we move on, because 10 years ago we were not where we were now. Persons, no one would be
No,
walking
I
through
agree.
Port of Spain with a socks like mine.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, no, from the moment that I was like, I heard about that, I was like, oh yeah, that's me. I'm the socks guy.
Right.
Mhm.
So
But
if you
I know
you're
what you
into
mean.
fun stuff, you would do it.
Yeah.
But some persons are very. I have students. I have colleagues that they're not gonna be rocking their socks. They're not gonna be walking through Scarborough or Port of Spain with a clong socks, as they call it, or funky socks. No way they're gonna be doing that. Right. So you have to do, one of the first things we have to change is our mindset. So when you change your mindset and your attitude, right, and how we perceive persons with disabilities, we basically start to see with different lens. Yeah? So we look at individuals as people,
As people, yeah.
right? God made all of us. Remember, I could never decide which of my cells didn't separate. I mean, which of my chromosomes didn't
Yeah.
separate. So it's not something that it's not a choice. You can't choose to be
Yeah.
to have a disability. This is your portion, but you could choose the attitude as to how you live. And the way that we treat persons would make it easier for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is one of the main things that we need to do in terms of support. Our mindset, the way we perceive these persons, and what we can do. So the end, as you say, or I should say moving forward, is to accept them, to value them, to appreciate these individuals, to learn from them, because we can learn to
I
dance
agree,
from
yeah.
them. They are great dancers. Yeah, there's much that we
Yes.
can learn from them.
All right. Well, as we're closing now, what do you want us to take away today? What if you want to tell anybody that's watching, what do you want them to come away from this with?
Persons with disabilities, Down syndrome, and other disabilities, they're people just like you and I. They have feelings, and they want to be a part of. They want friends, they want a job, they even want a relationship. Yeah? And they want an education, they want to be included. And for the next baby that may be born with Down syndrome, it could be your little brother, your little sister, a cousin, a friend. We have to realize and say, how can I impact this child, or what can I do to make a difference? So for persons who are out there, let us ask ourselves, what can I do to make a difference in the life of a person with Down syndrome or other disabilities? So apart from rocking my socks, going to the body walk, attending the conference, going to the parent workshop, what can we do every day in society? We can value them, we can include them, we can be their friends. Yeah?
Yeah.
We can make them a part of our society. We can show them love, and we can treat them the same way that we would treat our friends, our colleagues, our relatives, because they must be included. They are part. They are part of the human race, and they are important.
Yeah, as everything that you were saying just now, I totally agree with, and I think we can apply to this. They do unto others as you would have them do unto you principle. Like you said, they're humans. They should be included as a part of society, and they should have equal opportunity to live a life that as normal as possible.
As normal.
And I think as a teacher, and other educators, we have to mentally prepare ourselves to be able to interact with these students who are going to need that extra support and be willing to give that extra support, not just leave them in the back of the class or be like, I can't handle that, you give that extra support. And I think all the information that you shared was valuable in that they develop a bit slower, because we may look at the student and be saying, well, I don't understand why they're not getting this, and lose patience. But once we are aware and we get to know better about these persons, we can better provide for them. So definitely, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Be kind, be loving, be willing to give that extra support, because it could be you, it could have been you, it could be someone from your family, it could be a relative, it could be a friend, and you wouldn't want some person to treat them unkindly. So you do to them as you would want for your own.
And as a teacher, you would be having students in your class, and you would realize that they can learn. But oftentimes, as you say, we leave them to the back and we don't do stuff, but they can learn. And once you are mindful that, hey, this child could learn, you would know, because they learn their names, they learn to write, but they do it at a slower pace. Because for a person, the average, say a genius, you could show them something 1 or 2 times and they're good. For the average individual, maybe like us here, maybe a few times, 8, 9. For a child with Down syndrome or intellectual disability, you go into the 1,144 times before they can do one concept. So the patience, the love, but you know what? They do it. They eventually get there. They may not get there when everybody else get there. They may not pop the same time when all the other corn pop, but they pop. Yeah, so they get there.
Yeah, I think that's important to remember that, like, yes, we're not ignoring the fact that they are disabled, but they will get there, and it's just to give them the support and the time and the help, and they will get there. I feel like that's all we have to come back to kindness,
And love.
And love.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, they're still just people, and you have to be kind to people.
And it's not I wouldn't say disabled. We could try to use differently able.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we could try to use, so they are able but in a different way. So we could try differently able. So just looking at them as differently able as to disable, it basically reminds you that, hey, they can do it, but at a different time, at a different pace, and in a different way.
Okay. All right. Well, I thank you both for coming on today. This was a really interesting episode. I want you to keep doing what you're doing. I think that you're doing an excellent job, and we're not there, but we will keep going and things will get better.
Yep.
Right. Adriel, I think you're coming along very nicely, and I love what you said today. I think
Thank you.
You'd be a great teacher once you get out of here.
I am hoping so.
I would be happy to leave my children in your classroom. Whenever that happens.
Amen. I will welcome them with open arms.
Thank you.
And thank you all for having me. It really was a pleasure to share the information. I hope I didn't talk too much, but I want to thank you all.
We are spreading awareness.
I always get carried away when I'm speaking about persons with disabilities and different abilities and stuff. I just get very excited.
As you should.
And I know you would make a great teacher.
Thank you, ma'am.
And you continue to do the great job that you are doing, trying to, encourage your student body and have the information out there, because this is what we need to get the awareness and sensitization going.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, this has been the ASB podcast. Of course, you can check us out on our IG at usc.tt.asb and the channel USC. On Facebook at USC's Associated Student Body, our link tree usc.asb, and on YouTube at the channel. Once again, this has been ASB Now Live, and I will see you all next time.
Thank you. here again, and I would just like to show you all a little display or a demonstration as to how a baby is born with Down syndrome. So as we would have, as we would recap, we are all unique because we have our chromosomes, and most persons have 23 pairs, or we have 46. So we have, that first pair, second pair, third, fourth, we go all the way down, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. When we get to the 21st pair, those chromosomes did not separate, yeah? So what happens, another one comes to join to ensure that we have 2. So instead of having a pair, we have a pair and an extra. So that is why we have a baby being born with Down syndrome when you have that extra copy, 1, 2, 3. So that's why we have trisomy 21. When a baby is born with Down syndrome, it goes to full term. Now, when this happens, every cell in that individual will have the 3 copies on the 21st chromosome. And we have that 3 copies in every cell. So, hence we have that baby being born with Down syndrome. Alright, so this basically will give you an idea as to what it looks like in that cell, and then it looks like socks. So that is why we rock our socks on March the 21st every year. So 3 signifies the 3 copies, which is the 3rd month, March, and the 21st of March signifies the 21st chromosome. So I hope this helps in terms of when somebody asks you why you rock your socks or what is Down syndrome, you can now, give them a little more information, right? And we can always do this with kids, we can do it with our students, we can do it, just at sessions so persons can be aware and sensitized about Down syndrome. Thanks much.